Have you ever find an old water mill deep in the woods, and the wheel is still turning, even though the river is dry? Leave. Do not stop. Do not listen to the sound of the water. And whatever happens, do not look into the Blackwater, because according to an old legend, there is a mill where the wheel has been turning for more than 100 years. No one remembers who built it. No one knows what powers it. And nobody who follows the sound of that wheel ever comes back. The cursed mill on Blackwater Creek. Why the wheel never stops turning. Prologue. The first official record appeared in 1884, a short newspaper article printed in a local town that no longer exists. Most of the paper was damaged by time. Only a few lines remained readable. 3 men disappeared near Blackwater Creek. Witnesses reported hearing machinery during the night. Search parties found no bodies. The mill wheel was still turning. That was all. No names, no explanation, no conclusion. Just a strange note attached to the article by an unknown editor, written in faded ink, almost impossible to read. Yet, one sentence survived. The river takes them back. For over a century, nobody understood what those words meant. Then, the disappearances started again. Blackwater Creek lies far beyond the last paved road. Even today, the place rarely appears on maps. The forest around it is dense, ancient, silent. The kind of forest where sound seems to travel in the wrong direction. Locals avoid the area, not because of wild animals, not because of accidents, because of the mill. Children grow up hearing stories about it, stories passed from one generation to another. The details change. The warning never does. Never follow the sound of the wheel. Most people laugh until they hear it themselves. A slow, rhythmic creaking, wood against wood, metal against stone. Turning, 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 hour after hour, day after day, year after year, even when the river is dry, even when winter freezes everything solid, the wheel never stops. And nobody knows why. In October of 2023, a documentary filmmaker named Daniel Mercer decided to find out. Daniel specialized in forgotten places, abandoned hospitals, ghost towns, old mines. His videos attracted millions of viewers. He believed every legend had a rational explanation. Every ghost story hid a real event. Every mystery could be solved. When he first heard about Blackwater Mill, he laughed. An endless wheel, a cursed river, missing people. It sounded perfect. Exactly the kind of story his audience loved. 3 weeks later, he drove into the forest with 2 cameras, audio equipment, and enough supplies for several days. He never returned, but the footage did. And what appeared on those recordings changed everything. Daniel arrived shortly before sunset. The road ended almost 2 miles before the mill. From there, he continued on foot. The deeper he walked into the forest, the quieter everything became. No birds, no insects, no wind, just silence. A strange, unnatural silence. His camera recorded everything. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Trees, mud, fog gathering between the trunks. Then, 43 minutes into the hike, the audio recorder captured something. A distant sound. Slow, rhythmic, almost mechanical. Creak, creak, creak. Daniel stopped. So, that's the wheel. He smiled into the camera. At least it exists. The sound continued, steady, unchanging, like a giant clock hidden somewhere inside the woods. The closer he got, the louder it became. Soon he could hear water as well, flowing, splashing, moving through wooden channels. The strange thing was that, according to maps, Blackwater Creek had almost completely dried up decades earlier. There should have been no water. Yet, the sound remained, growing louder, growing closer. The first glimpse of the mill appeared through the fog. Daniel stopped walking. Even through the camera lens, it looked wrong. The structure leaned slightly toward the river. Its wood was blackened with age. Windows stared into the forest like empty eyes. And beside it stood the wheel. Massive, ancient, turning slowly, endlessly. Water cascaded over its surface. But there was a problem. The river beneath it barely existed. Only a shallow stream moved through the rocks. Nowhere near enough water to power something that size. Daniel zoomed in. The wheel continued rotating. Creak, creak, creak. The sound matched perfectly. Every movement, every rotation. Exactly the same rhythm, the same speed, as if it had been turning forever, waiting. Night arrived quickly. Daniel set up camp near the edge of the clearing. He wanted footage after dark. That was usually when legends became interesting. At 9:17 p.m., he recorded his first journal entry. Everything seems normal. The wheel is turning. The structure is stable. No signs of recent visitors. He looked toward the mill. I'll go inside tomorrow. The camera captured something strange behind him. Something Daniel never noticed. A figure standing near the wheel, watching, motionless, dark, human-shaped, visible for only 3 seconds, then gone. At 11:41 p.m., the audio recorder activated automatically. No video, only sound. At first, there was silence. Then, the wheel. Creak, creak, creak. Then another noise. Footsteps, slow, wet, approaching the tent. Daniel later claimed he never heard them. The recorder disagreed. The footsteps circled the campsite for nearly 20 minutes, always just beyond the tent, never entering, never leaving. Then a voice appeared, faint, almost drowned beneath the sound of the wheel. A whisper, repeated again and again, the same sentence, over and over, as if someone stood inches from the microphone. Turn around, turn around, turn around. At 2:13 a.m., Daniel woke suddenly. His night camera captured everything. He sat upright, breathing heavily, looking toward the river. The wheel continued turning, the same speed, the same rhythm. Nothing unusual. Yet Daniel appeared terrified. Later, he explained why. He had experienced a dream, not a normal dream. The exact same dream reported in dozens of missing person cases connected to Blackwater Creek. A dream nobody should have known about. Yet every witness described it almost identically. A person standing beside the wheel, watching the water, hearing their own voice coming from somewhere beneath the surface, calling their name, inviting them closer, promising answers, promising peace, promising that if they looked into the water, they would understand everything. Daniel dreamed it, exactly as others had, and when he awoke, he discovered wet footprints leading directly from the river to his tent. Footprints made by bare human feet. Only one set coming toward him, none leaving. At sunrise, he followed them. That decision would become the greatest mistake of his life. The tracks led toward the mill, straight to the entrance, then disappeared, as if whoever made them had walked directly through the wooden door without ever opening it. Daniel laughed nervously, trying to convince himself there was an explanation, but his voice sounded different now, less confident, less certain. The footage shows it clearly. Something had changed. The legend was no longer entertaining. For the first time, Daniel looked afraid, and the worst part had not even begun. The front door resisted at first. The wood had swollen from decades of moisture. Daniel pushed harder. The hinges groaned. A cloud of dust drifted into the air. Then the door slowly opened. The wheel outside continued turning. Creak, creak, creak. The sound echoed through the building like a heartbeat. Slow, patient, waiting. The inside of the mill should have been ruined. Abandoned buildings rarely survive a century without maintenance. Yet, Blackwater Mill seemed untouched. Dust covered everything, but nothing had collapsed. Nothing had rotted. The machinery still stood. Massive wooden gears, iron shafts, ancient grinding stones, all perfectly intact, as though someone maintained them every day for generations. Daniel walked deeper inside. His flashlight swept across the walls. At first, he noticed nothing unusual. Then, the beam landed on scratches, thousands of scratches, covering every wooden surface. Names, dates, messages, some fresh, some impossibly old. The camera recorded them clearly. Daniel began reading. "Help me. I hear them at night. Don't sleep. The river remembers. The wheel knows your name. If you're reading this, leave now." The messages continued, covering entire sections of wall. Dozens, hundreds, possibly thousands. Some dated back to the late 19th century. Others only a few years old. People had been coming here for generations, and many, apparently, never left. Then Daniel found the photographs, pinned to a support beam, protected from moisture by sheets of yellowed glass. The oldest photograph showed 4 men standing beside the mill. Their clothing suggested the 1880s, all smiling, all alive. The next photograph showed the same men standing beside the river. But something had changed. One of them appeared blurred, as if partially erased. The third photograph made Daniel stop breathing. Only 3 men remained. The fourth had vanished completely, not cropped, not damaged, gone, as though he had never existed. The pattern repeated through dozens of photographs, groups becoming smaller, faces disappearing, people erased from reality itself, one by one, year after year, generation after generation. Then Daniel noticed something even worse. One of the newest photographs showed 3 hikers. The date written underneath read, "2 people stood smiling beside the mill." The third person's outline remained visible, but the face was gone. Only a blank shape remained, as if memory itself had been removed. "Okay," Daniel whispered, "that's not normal." His voice shook. For the first time since arriving, then the camera caught movement. Not in front of him, behind him, a figure standing at the far end of the room, motionless, watching. Daniel spun around. Nothing. The space was empty, yet the footage clearly showed someone standing there only moments earlier. Tall, thin, wearing dark clothing, face hidden, gone before Daniel could see it. The rest of the recording becomes increasingly disturbing, because from this point onward, Daniel was no longer alone. At 12:32 p.m., he entered the basement. According to old blueprints, the lower level should have been small, a storage area beneath the grinding room. Instead, he found stairs, descending far deeper underground than the building should physically allow. The camera showed at least 3 levels, possibly more. The architecture made no sense. The mill above could never contain such a structure, yet there it was, extending downward into darkness. The air grew colder with every step. The sound of the wheel became louder, not weaker, louder, as if the source wasn't outside anymore, as if the sound originated somewhere beneath the earth. Eventually, Daniel reached the lowest level. The flashlight illuminated stone walls, old brick arches, pools of black water, and a tunnel stretching into darkness. At the entrance stood a sign, hand-carved, weathered by age. One sentence remained legible: "Do not follow the water." Daniel followed it. The tunnel curved beneath the forest. Water dripped constantly from the ceiling. The floor remained wet. Fresh footprints appeared everywhere, hundreds of them. Bare feet, large, small, adult, child, all moving in the same direction, toward something deeper below. Then Daniel noticed something impossible. None of the footprints returned. Not one. Every track led farther into darkness. Nothing came back. The tunnel eventually opened into a vast underground chamber. The camera struggled to capture its size. Even modern equipment failed to reveal the entire space. But one thing became immediately clear. The river continued underground. A massive lake stretched into darkness, its surface perfectly still, black as oil, reflecting no light, no movement, no ripples, nothing. And in the center stood the source of the wheel. Daniel stared in disbelief, because the mill wheel above was connected to something enormous beneath the water, a gigantic mechanism, far larger than the mill itself, ancient, impossible, turning slowly in the darkness, as if hidden beneath the earth, long before the forest existed, long before the mill was built, long before people arrived. Then the lake spoke, not loudly, not dramatically, just a whisper, soft, human, familiar. Daniel! His flashlight dropped. The camera shook violently, because he recognized the voice. It was his own. The camera trembled in his hands. The black lake remained perfectly still. Not a single ripple crossed its surface. Yet his voice had come from somewhere within it. Clear, distinct, impossible. Daniel. The voice repeated. Exactly his voice. Exactly his tone. Even the breathing sounded identical, as though another version of him stood somewhere beneath the water, waiting, watching, listening. Most people would have run. Daniel moved closer. That decision appears repeatedly throughout the recovered footage. Whenever something impossible happened, he moved toward it. Curiosity always won, until it didn't. The flashlight beam swept across the lake. At first nothing appeared. Then the light caught movement. Far below the surface, a pale shape, human-sized, drifting through the darkness. Daniel zoomed in. The shape drifted upward, slowly, almost lazily, as though it had all the time in the world. The camera struggled to focus. The water distorted everything. Yet one detail became unmistakable. The figure looked human, and it was looking directly at him. Then another shape appeared, and another, and another. The entire lake was filled with them, hundreds, possibly thousands, human silhouettes floating beneath the surface, motionless, suspended in darkness, like insects trapped in amber. Some wore modern clothing, others wore garments from centuries past. Different eras, different generations, different lives, all gathered beneath the Blackwater. Daniel stepped backward. Finally, for the first time, fear overcame curiosity. Then one of the figures opened its eyes. The camera captured the moment clearly. Pale white eyes opening beneath 30 feet of black water. Then another pair. Then another. Then hundreds, thousands, opening simultaneously, staring upward at Daniel. The footage becomes difficult to watch after this point, because the lake began speaking, not one voice, many, all at once, whispers, names, fragments of sentences, crying, laughter, pleas for help, warnings, prayers, every sound blending together. Among them, Daniel recognized something horrifying. Several voices belonged to missing people. People whose disappearances had been documented for decades. Some records dated back more than a century. Yet their voices sounded alive, recent, present. One voice belonged to a woman missing since 1974. Another matched recordings from a hiker who vanished in 1998. A third belonged to a journalist who disappeared while investigating the mill in 2007. All speaking from beneath the water, all speaking at once. Then the voices suddenly stopped. Every single one, instantly. Silence filled the chamber, a terrible silence. The kind that makes the human brain expect something awful. And then it happened. The giant mechanism beneath the lake accelerated. For the first time in the recordings, the wheel changed speed. Creak, creak, creak. Faster. Creak, creak, creak. faster. The entire chamber vibrated. Stone dust fell from the ceiling. Water began moving. The lake stirred, and something started rising. At first, Daniel thought it was a machine, then a rock formation, then something impossible. A face, a colossal human face emerging from beneath the black water, not floating, attached, connected to something vast hidden below. Its eyes remained closed. Its skin looked ancient, like stone covered by centuries of water, yet it moved slowly, deliberately, as if awakening. Daniel backed away. The camera barely kept the creature in frame. Then the eyes opened. Every electronic device malfunctioned simultaneously. The footage distorted. Audio screamed with static. The image fragmented. Yet one frame survived. One clear frame. The face was looking directly into the camera and smiling. What happened next remains one of the most disturbing moments in the entire investigation, because the smile wasn't directed at Daniel. It was directed at someone standing behind him, someone the camera hadn't noticed before when analysts enhanced the frame years later. They discovered a second figure, standing less than 6 feet behind Daniel. The figure looked exactly like him. Same clothing, same face, same backpack, same camera equipment. An identical copy, watching him, smiling. The duplicate raised one hand, slowly, calmly, almost friendly. Then the footage ended. When recording resumed 12 minutes later, Daniel was running, terrified, breathing hard, sprinting through the tunnel. Behind him came footsteps. Not one set. Hundreds. Bare feet slapping against stone. Following. Closing in. And somewhere in the darkness, his own voice kept calling his name, closer every second. Daniel. 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 As he reached the stairs leading back to the mill, he made the mistake that doomed everyone before him. He turned around, and what he saw made him scream. The footage shook violently. Branches whipped across the lens. Daniel stumbled through the forest, panting, terrified. Behind him came the sound of hundreds of footsteps, not running, walking, steady, patient, certain, as though whatever followed him already knew he couldn't escape. The strange thing was that the sounds never became louder, never became quieter. They remained exactly the same distance away. No matter how fast he ran, no matter how far he went, the footsteps stayed behind him, watching, waiting, following. Then Daniel finally turned around. The camera caught only a glimpse, a single glimpse. But It was enough. The forest behind him was filled with people, rows of them, standing among the trees, silent, motionless. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Every face stared directly at him. None blinked. None moved. Some wore modern clothing. Others looked centuries old. Farmers, soldiers, children, women, travelers, workers, hunters, the missing, all of them. Every person taken by Blackwater Creek, standing in the darkness, watching. And among them stood Daniel. Again, the duplicate smiled, exactly as before. Then every figure took one step forward simultaneously. Daniel ran. The next several hours remained difficult to reconstruct. His recordings became fragmented, corrupted, filled with static. Large portions vanished entirely. Yet, investigators later recovered enough data to understand what happened. And what they discovered was horrifying. Daniel never left the forest, not once. GPS data showed something impossible. For nearly 6 hours, he believed he was escaping, running farther and farther away from the mill. Yet, every location marker placed him within a few hundred feet of the clearing. The forest had become a maze, a loop, a prison. No matter which direction he traveled, he always returned to Blackwater Mill. At 4:11 p.m., the footage shows him collapsing beside the river, exhausted, covered in mud, barely able to stand. Then he noticed something. The wheel. It had stopped. For the first time in over a century, the wheel had stopped turning. Silence filled the forest. No creaking, no grinding wood, no rushing water. Nothing. Daniel stared at it, confused, terrified. Then the river began flowing backward. The footage clearly shows it. Water reversing direction, moving upstream, defying gravity, returning toward the mill. Every stream, every puddle, every drop drawn toward the wheel. The ground trembled. The wheel moved once, a single rotation, then twice, then 3 times. And suddenly it accelerated faster than ever before. Creak, creak, creak. The ancient structure groaned. The entire forest seemed to vibrate. And then the voices returned, not from underground, not from the water, from the trees. Thousands of voices speaking together. Another one. The phrase echoed through the forest again and again and again. Another one. Another one. Another one. Daniel backed away. Then he saw the mill door open by itself. Something emerged. not a monster, not a ghost. Something worse. A man, an ordinary man, wet clothing, pale skin, blank expression. He stepped into the clearing, slowly, calmly. Daniel immediately recognized him, the missing filmmaker from 2007, the journalist whose disappearance had never been solved. The man had not aged a single day, and he wasn't alone. More figures emerged from the mill, one after another. The missing hikers, the missing hunters, the missing travelers, the missing children, the missing families. Decades of disappearances, walking out of the building. None appeared injured. None appeared dead. They simply walked silently toward the river. Then they stepped into the Blackwater and vanished beneath the surface, one by one, as if answering a call, as if returning home. Daniel whispered something investigators could barely hear. "What are you?" For the first time, the duplicate answered, because suddenly it was standing beside him. The copy looked directly into the camera, directly at Daniel, and smiled. Then it spoke. "We are what remains." The recording ended. When it resumed, night had fallen. Daniel was back inside the mill, and he had no memory of how he got there. Daniel woke on the second floor of the mill. At least he believed it was the second floor. The building no longer obeyed any rules he understood. The room around him should not have existed. According to the exterior measurements of the mill, there was no space large enough to contain it. Yet there he was, lying on a wooden floor, surrounded by darkness. His camera remained recording. The timestamp showed 11:48 p.m. Almost 6 hours were missing, gone, completely erased. Daniel sat up slowly. His head throbbed. His clothes were wet, not damp, soaked, as though he had spent hours underwater. Then he noticed the walls. Every inch of them was covered with photographs. Thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, pinned from floor to ceiling. Layer upon layer, generation after generation. People standing beside the mill. People standing beside the river. People staring directly into the camera. Some photographs were recent. Others were older than the mill itself should have been. Yet every image shared one detail. Each photograph contained someone who would later disappear. Daniel approached one of the newer pictures. His blood ran cold. The photograph showed him standing beside the wheel, smiling. The date written beneath it read October 17th, 2023. The photograph was dated 3 days in the future. Daniel dropped it immediately. Then he noticed dozens more. Every picture showed him walking through the forest, setting up camp, entering the mill, standing beside the underground lake. Moments that had not happened yet. Moments that would happen tomorrow. Moments that should not exist. The room knew the future, or perhaps the future had already happened. Daniel no longer knew which possibility frightened him more. Then he found the ledger, a massive book resting on an old wooden desk, its pages yellowed with age, its cover bound in cracked black leather. The title was written by hand. Those who returned. Daniel opened it. Names filled every page, thousands of names, each accompanied by a date. Some entries ended with a simple mark, a black circle. Others ended with a black cross. Daniel eventually discovered the meaning. The circle meant they returned to the river. The cross meant they escaped. There were only 17 crosses out of thousands, and every escapee died within 1 year, every single one. Heart attacks, car accidents, falls, suicides, disappearances. The river always reclaimed them. Eventually. Then Daniel found the final page. The ink looked fresh, recently written. Only one name appeared there, Daniel Mercer. Below it was a date, tomorrow's date, and beneath that, one unfinished sentence. The wheel requires. The rest had not yet been written. Suddenly, the floor trembled. The wheel below accelerated again. Creak, creak, creak. Louder, faster, hungrier. The entire building seemed alive. Daniel looked through a nearby window. What he saw nearly stopped his heart. The forest was gone. Outside stood an endless black ocean. No trees, no hills, no moon. Only dark water stretching beyond the horizon. And emerging from that water were lights, thousands of lights, moving toward the mill like lanterns carried by unseen travelers, slowly, steadily. Daniel zoomed in. The lanterns were not floating. People carried them. An endless procession of figures walking across the surface of the water, thousands upon thousands, all moving toward the mill, all silent, all carrying lights, and every face was familiar. The missing, every person Blackwater Creek had ever taken, coming home. Then every lantern extinguished at exactly the same moment. Darkness swallowed everything. The camera microphone captured a sound from outside. A single voice, deep, ancient, impossible. A voice that seemed older than the forest itself. The wheel is slowing. Daniel froze. The river is hungry. The walls creaked. The photographs began falling from their nails. The cycle must continue. Then Every photograph in the room changed. Every single one. The faces disappeared, leaving only Daniel. Thousands of photographs, thousands of different years, thousands of different victims. And in every image, only Daniel remained, as though he had always been there, as though everyone else had been erased. Then someone knocked on the door. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Daniel stared. The camera stared. The room fell silent. Then his own voice spoke from the other side. "Let me in." Daniel ran. The camera bounced wildly. His screams echoed through the impossible corridors of the mill. Behind him came something far worse than footsteps, something heavy, something enormous, something moving through stone itself. The walls shook. Ancient beams splintered. Dust poured from the ceiling. The entire structure groaned as though it had spent centuries holding something prisoner. And that prison had finally opened. Daniel reached the stairwell and threw himself downward. The corridor behind him darkened, not because of shadows, because something blocked the light, something vast. For a fraction of a second, the camera caught part of it. Only part. And that fragment alone horrified investigators. An eye, not human, not animal, not anything known. An eye larger than the wheel itself, watching, blinking, awake. The image vanished immediately beneath layers of static. Yet analysts confirmed it appeared in 3 consecutive frames, long enough to prove it existed. Daniel continued downward, toward the underground lake, toward the source, toward the place where all of this had begun. The deeper he descended, the louder the wheel became. Not turning, roaring, the ancient mechanism now spun faster than ever before. The giant gears beneath the lake churned violently. Black water surged through tunnels. The river seemed alive, hungry. Then Daniel reached the chamber and stopped. The lake was gone. The water had drained away completely. For the first time in perhaps centuries, the bottom of Blackwater was exposed, and what lay beneath explained everything. The giant mechanism was not a machine. The wheel, the gears, the shafts, the endless system beneath the mill, they were bones, enormous bones, ancient bones, interlocked like machinery, grinding endlessly against one another, an entire skeleton buried beneath the valley, so large the human mind struggled to comprehend its scale. The mill had never powered the wheel. The wheel had concealed the skeleton. And now the secret was exposed. Daniel slowly raised the flashlight. The beam traveled upward, higher, 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 then vanished into darkness. The skeleton continued beyond sight, beyond reason, beyond understanding. And at its center, where a heart should have been, stood a doorway. A doorway made entirely from black water, not liquid, not solid, something in between. The surface rippled, breathing, waiting. Then voices emerged, thousands of voices, all speaking together. Close it before it wakes. Close it. Daniel turned. The missing people stood around the chamber, hundreds of them, perhaps thousands. Not hostile, not threatening, terrified. For the first time, they looked afraid. One old woman stepped forward. The camera captured her clearly. Records later identified her as missing since 1948. She pointed toward the water doorway. Every cycle it grows stronger. Another figure appeared, a hunter missing since 1974. The wheel keeps it asleep. Another and another. The river feeds it. The mill contains it. The dead hold it. Then all of them looked upward simultaneously. Something moved in the darkness above. The creature was descending, and the skeleton beneath the valley began moving. The entire chamber trembled. Stone cracked. Ancient pillars collapsed into the exposed basin. The gigantic skeleton beneath the valley shifted for the first time in countless ages. Bone scraped against bone. The sound echoed like thunder. Above them, something descended, not falling, not climbing. Descending, as though the darkness itself had decided to take shape. The missing people stepped backward. Fear spread through the crowd. Not panic, not terror. Something older, something deeper. The fear of beings who had witnessed this before. Many times. The old woman from 1948 looked directly at Daniel. There has always been a keeper. Daniel stared. What keeper? The woman pointed toward the wheel. The one who turns it. Then she pointed at him. And now it is your turn. Before Daniel could answer, the chamber darkened. Every light vanished. Even the camera struggled to see. Then, two enormous eyes opened above the skeleton. Not the eye seen earlier. Both eyes. Each larger than a house. Each glowing beneath the darkness. Watching. Waiting. Awake. The creature had finally opened its eyes, and the wheel immediately slowed. Creak. A pause. Creak. Another pause. The rhythm was dying. The old woman began crying. No. The missing people looked upward. For the first time in more than a century, the wheel was stopping, and something was waking. Then Daniel saw the truth. The wheel was never a machine, never a curse, never a source of power. It was a lock, a giant lock. The mill had been built around it. Generations had maintained it. The river had fed it. The missing had sustained it. Everything existed for one purpose: keep the thing beneath Blackwater asleep. And now the lock was failing. The creature slowly rose. The skeleton beneath the valley moved with it. Mountains of bone shifting beneath the earth. Ancient joints awakening. The entire forest above began collapsing. Trees fell. Ground split open. The river surged violently. Far away, emergency services would later report tremors across dozens of miles. But nobody understood the cause. Down in the chamber, Daniel watched the creature emerge. Its body could not be fully seen. The camera couldn't capture it. The human eye couldn't comprehend it. Every frame distorted, every recording corrupted, as if reality itself rejected the sight. Yet, one detail remained visible: its face. And the face looked human, not completely, not naturally, but enough to trigger recognition, enough to create horror, because the face resembled every missing person simultaneously. Thousands of faces blending together, shifting, changing, endlessly. The creature opened its mouth and spoke. The voice shook the chamber. I remember them all. The river exploded upward. Black water filled the air. The dead screamed. The wheel groaned. I remember every name. The creature leaned closer, 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 and soon, its countless eyes fixed upon Daniel. I will remember you. The wheel stopped for the first time in over a century. Silence, complete silence. Then the old woman shouted, "Turn the wheel." And Daniel finally unders. The head stopped for the first time in more than a century. Silence consumed the chamber. No creaking, no grinding wood, no rushing water, nothing. And that silence was worse than any sound. The creature rose higher. The gigantic skeleton beneath the valley continued awakening. Bone after bone, joint after joint. A thing older than history, unfolding itself beneath the earth. The old woman grabbed Daniel's arm. Her hand felt ice cold. You still have time. Daniel looked toward the wheel. The ancient mechanism towered above the chamber. Broken, exhausted, dying. How? The old woman stared at him. Tears filled her eyes, the same way every keeper did. Then Daniel understood. The unfinished sentence in the ledger. The wheel requires. The answer had never been written because it was always the same. The wheel requires one keeper, one soul, one memory, one life. Every generation. The missing had never been victims, not all of them. Some had chosen. chosen to become part of the mechanism, chosen to keep the creature asleep, chosen to save everyone else. The creature moved closer. Its eyes filled the darkness. The dead began screaming, "No!" The underground lake exploded upward. Blackwater crashed through the chamber. Stone shattered. Ancient pillars collapsed. The creature opened its mouth, and Daniel saw what lay inside. Not teeth, not flesh. Faces. Thousands of faces. The missing. Every victim. Every soul consumed across centuries. All trapped within it. Still conscious. Still watching. Still remembering. Daniel knew there was no escape. There never had been. The forest, the loop, the photographs, the duplicate, the dreams. Everything had been guiding him here, toward this moment, toward this choice. The creature lunged, and Daniel jumped, not away, toward the wheel. The camera tumbled across stone. The image spun wildly. Then something impossible happened. The wheel began moving. One rotation. Creak. The creature screamed. Not in anger, in pain. Second rotation. Creak. Cracks spread across the creature's face. Third rotation. Creak. The entire chamber shook. Black water surged upward around Daniel, swallowing him, pulling him into the ancient mechanism. The dead cried out, not in fear, in relief. The wheel accelerated, faster. Creak, creak, creak. The creature began collapsing. Its body fractured. Its countless faces screamed. Its eyes dimmed. The skeleton beneath the valley stopped moving. The river reversed once more, returning to its ancient channels. The chamber flooded completely. The camera recorded one final image, Daniel standing inside the turning wheel. Calm, silent, watching. Then the footage ended. Epilogue. Search teams arrived 6 days later. They found Blackwater Mill exactly where it had always been. The wheel was turning, slowly, endlessly. The river flowed normally. The forest appeared undisturbed. No sign of Daniel Mercer was ever found. No body, no equipment, nothing. Officially, he remains missing. The investigation closed after 8 months. The recordings were archived. The story became another legend. But in 2025, something strange happened. A group of hikers visited Blackwater Creek. One of them filmed the mill from a distance. Just another travel video. Nothing unusual. Until viewers noticed something. Someone standing inside the wheel. Visible for only a few frames. A man, motionless, watching the river. When investigators enhanced the image, they identified him immediately. Daniel Mercer. Unchanged, unaged, still standing inside the wheel, still turning with it, still watching. And every few nights, when the wind is quiet and the river runs black beneath the moon, locals claim they hear a voice carried across the water. Not a scream, not a warning, a whisper, the same words every time. Keep moving. Don't stop. Whatever happens, don't look into the Blackwater. The end.